baseless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Thank you, John Larson. I receive your kind words on behalf of all of our courageous members of the House of Representatives who want the best for the American people. And what we can do that is best for them in the next 24 hours is to pass affordable, accessible health care for all Americans. The best for all Americans is to have 32 million more people to have health insurance in our country. The best for...
Piece of stinking filth.
Shh, say it again, Shal. This is AJ of the InfoWars. Listen to the Shaliak. This is Alex Jones of InfoWars. Listen to Shaliak on the Cold Reality News and Report.
This is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Well, hello there.
And here we go. This week on Cold Reality Radio. Space station crashing to Earth. Tracking the fiery fall. Michigan activates emergency response. Is it really a space station? Oh, I forgot. I'm not allowed to question anything. London murder rate overtakes New York City for the first time. U.S. and South Korea begin joint military training. NYPD cops so bad, lawmakers are forced to ban them from having sex with people they arrest. New York bill passed to confiscate guns for domestic violence misdemeanors. No more secrets. Mind-reading machine can translate thoughts and display them as text instantly. April snow to hit D.C., New York, and Boston. Iowa has a problem. Too many jobs and not enough people. Navy remotely lands a jet on a carrier with an Atari game controller. Passover uprising. Palestinians march on border. Israel says firing on protesters justified. Anything they do is really justified, right? 17 dead. 1,000 plus injured. Pope opens Easter celebration with a tweet. Vatican scrambles after existence of hell is denied when it's actually a debtor's prison. Yes, it's the debtor's prison. Francis is ashamed of fractured world. That and more on today's edition of Cold Reality Radio here on the UCY.TV Broadcasting Network. Sunday, April 1st. It's 10:05 a.m. on the East Coast of Nightmerica, of the fictional creation of the bloodline families that have ruled and dominated over people and peasants and commoners for quite some time now, for sure. But, you know, they disguise themselves as government and all these benevolent services to mankind and fighting the bad guys that they create to keep us safe and all these other magnificent things that government does, the controllers of the mind, the governors of your mind, the mente of the governed. So here we are on April Fool's Day, and it is not a joke. Our world is ruled by psychopaths and baby killers and those who have the money and the power to create news organizations like the Columbia Broadcasting System, the American Broadcasting Company, nothing but communist over there at NBC, MSNBC. So what we have here is a bullshit machine that just continues to roll out more and more lies, more and more deception, trying to make sense of a paint stripper that if you smell it, you die. Family members crying, remembering their lost loved ones, and still 28 some years later, we have another death from a business owner who wanted to strip paint off of a particular area of property that he purchased and was overcome by fumes and killed. The reason why they're still out there, among others like glyphosate, which there's an unusual court case about, going on now, and if not right now, very, very soon, which can be considered now. There are chemical poisons in our kitchens, in our garages, at our doctor's offices, toxic drugs, toxic pharmaceutical drugs, petroleum-based poisons, vaccines that are touted as the end of this and the end of that disease and this one and that one, are all toxic poisons injected into you to corrupt your blood and to either give you kidney disease or cancer or one of these other autoimmune diseases that just keep on coming out of nowhere, but then they control the narrative because they know that they did it. And it doesn't take much to be able to do these things. All it takes is the want to play God and to have the money and power and resources to do so. And people cannot gather this. And until people gather that they're being murdered in mass, the soft kill, which unfortunately I learned from Alex Jones, the soft kill, which makes sense. I mean, the guy says a lot of things that are pretty accurate. But then, he's building you that sandwich that you're I'm really hungry for information. And the information is the sandwich. And then when you're looking away, he's like, oh, look at that false flag over there. And then he slips the turd inside it. And then you're eating a shit sandwich. It doesn't matter whether the ham and the cheese are organic or the bread is is non-GMO, and all the ingredients are just from the abundance of what this plane of existence could be. You know, food being unfortunately used as a weapon against us all, and doctors in with stethoscopes and lawyers and professionals that walk amongst us that they make television shows about, and how awesome it all is to be in a legal show, and all the pretty women, and they're all like, I'm a legal secretary, and you're a powerful lawyer. Let's have disgusting children together. So that's what we get. We get the entrainment through entertainment, which I didn't even really key it. I just said it to my good internet friend Steven, who he's been on the program any number of times. You can find him over at not a person or citizen .blogspot.com, or not person or citizen. You'll find it. Type it in. You'll find him. Steven's another great mind, a guy who understands what's going on, has planned, for himself financially. I respect him a great deal. And so while talking, and I think I said it before that, the entrainment through entertainment, the entrainment into the system, the belief in the system. When you get people that say, I believe in America, I believe in America, I do, I believe in America, I believe. Well, we know that from Clint, we learned from Clint, one of our great teachers through this fiction, about this fiction, that believe means love. And you say, I believe in you, that means I love you. And it makes sense, right? If you say to something very powerful like, I believe in you. I believe in you, Billy. I believe in you. That means, that you love this person. You believe, you give them, you give them the confidence. Like, I believe that I believe in you. Like I believe that Bigfoot exists, or I believe that the snow monster Yeti, the Loch Ness Monster exists. But it really just means that, I love you. And on this Easter morning, where everyone is out there and the popes, there is no hell. I'm a douchebag. I was born out of Satan's ass. I'm Pope Francis, and everybody loves me for no other reason than I'm the vicar of Christ, which is a sin and an abomination to even say that. But somebody's got to take over this role. Somebody's got to step in and say, hey, I'm the vicar of Christ. And then start, conveying all these things to the commoners that have really no hope, living in countries that are decimated by the banking families and the organizations created by the bloodline families, the bankers and all these other maggot scum that have been created out of the fiction. All of these jobs, all of these things that people want to be when they grow up. I want to be a doctor. So that you can work, so you can get licensed to poison and kill people when they walk in, and you listen to 10 to 15 seconds of what their symptoms are, and then you just prescribe them a drug, and it either helps them, doesn't help them, sometimes kills them, and, it's all, they just shrug it off like, hey, this was approved by the FDA. It was approved. Or you get these lawyers who all work in the same team. They work for the system that creates all the man-made laws that say you broke the law. What law was that? Oh, that was the law that says you can't do this. You can't walk across the street. You're jaywalking. That's a man-made law, and you broke it. So now we're going to write you a ticket, and then you're going to have to stand and pray to the courts, who are another replacement for God and the archons of the world that we're allowed to live in, that we're allowed to, we're allowed to buy a car, which is, a new car, which is the worst investment that you can make. If you buy a car for $20,000 and your credit's bad, you wind up paying 30 or 35 for it. If your credit's okay, they might get $5 or $6 grand from you. Yeah, you got the house. All right. Everybody wants a house. Everybody deserves a house. That's one of the key words that they threw at people, while they were crashing the economy at any number of different times. These prime loans, all these things, all these bets, right? Forget what they were called. The bets. What were they called? Anyway, the bets. Michael Moore did a documentary on it. Capitalism, a love story. What is this financial instrument? Well, what is this? And the guy's like, well, you see, it's kind of like it's kind of like if you transfer this over here and then you do that. Well, it's maybe somebody in the chat room can tell me. I can't think of it, but let's see what we got here. Let's get over to UCY. UCY in the morning, UCY in the night. I really can sing. I just choose to sound ridiculous. Uh-oh. Wow, look at all these anons in here. Look at all these anons, huh? Anons. Sunday, April 1st, 10/16. Actually, it's, I don't know. Anyway. So, what the heck were they? Capitalism, a love story. But anyway, so what we have is a system of the haves, and then, of course, the have-mores. And the have-mores create the haves. And they allow the haves to have a lot of stuff. And then the don't-haves rely on the haves to get something. And it's, just the, a love story. What is that? And, of course, Michael Moore is a chode. He's a douche. At one time thought of as someone who really, and a lot of people still kind of gravitate towards Michael Moore. Capitalism is theft. It's usury. But people are okay with it. Now, if capitalism, if you changed it into peopleism or commonerism, where everybody would benefit across the board, then you couldn't have a society that you could control. You wouldn't have the extremely poor that live in the inner cities that Hillary and a lot of these Democrats talk about helping, and they really never do. And a lot of these liberals know now that the Democrats are just full of shit, large scale. Chris Hedges, who really, truly, the only thing that I disagree with him on is he's just this huge believer in, he's coming to a realization with the lies that we've been told all these years. He knows what's going on over in Gaza. He knows how the U.S. turns their back on these people, how they install dictators into countries and then turn the proletariat there into, just beggars. They bring them from beggars to not so much beggar, where there's only a few beggars, so then you create your classes that way. But overall, he just constantly moves into the climate change thing, which I just, when he does a show about climate change, I don't even want to listen to it, because he doesn't understand he still believes in these, these fictional positions, the scientists. They're all bought and paid for. He does understand. He must understand this. But if you say something or anything to these people that are so adamantly, in this love affair with the earth and all these so-called horrific things that are supposed to happen, like allergies are just going to get worse because of climate change. Dogs are going to shit in the house more because of climate change, because they won't want to go outside. Just all this fucking bullshit that just fucking proliferates out there. It's just ridiculous. It's bullshit. But he buys into that. So I don't listen to him when he says that, but he understands that society is being decimated. It's being decimated into a everyone at the top, everybody has, and then there's no middle class. A lot of the things that we heard, John Coleman from the Committee of 300, a lot of these people throughout the last 15, 20, 25 years, I have not been aware. I've not been woke that long. The woke. It's incredible. It's incredible, the ignorance. And of course, I'm, personally with my family, my immediate family, brothers, sisters. I have a sister who's very, very ill. And as a result of being sick and not being able to eat, she's getting, as you can imagine, she's feeling pretty bad. These natural reactions to not being able to eat and things like that. And so she is now on some incredibly low dose of some antidepressant, which I said, you can't put pharmaceutical drugs on top of what she has, which is some kind of systemic parasitic infection that has been eating away, not allowing her to gain weight over the last 15 years. And if you can read the writing on the wall, which nobody really wants to read the writing on the wall when it comes to, and it's not like she hasn't done so many things to try to find out what is happening. Just extreme indigestion, bloating over the years that make you feel like you're pretty, you're like a hot air balloon, moving, getting ready to lift off. And so she's not doing real well, and she can't really eat, and so just a lot of really, really horrific things going on, and so it just having a conversation with my other sister there. Thinking that this is probably, we all hear these stories about people who have taken, an antidepressant drug, and it has helped them. You know, I had a friend in high school that one of these people, you know, one of these alpha guys, you know, the alpha guy, right? And he was like saying to, well, he gets married and his wife gets pregnant. And then he is unfaithful. And he's a horrible, not that he should have lied or anything, but I'm just saying she finds out. And then he, in order to salvage the marriage, he has to sell the house and move to the middle of America, middle America, you know, middle America. And so years later, when I run into him in all places, Los Angeles, where I'm down there on a business type thing. It's actually more of a fun trip disguised as business, a Microsoft event, if you will, the monopoly of Microsoft. And so he says, and we're talking about that point in history, and he's like, well, you know, I took some Prozac or something at that time, and it helped me deal with this disconnect, you know, from the East Coast where he grew up, all of his friends and everything, and then being swept away. And then I think he was working some menial job, educated guy, you know, the alpha. And so, but he was taking that. So we all hear these stories. And that's one of my connected one. I've seen people take these things and boom. I believe that there's some kind of psychotropic in even in antibiotics. There is a chemical compound in all of these drugs, and it's Russian roulette. And I hate to use that, right? It's like, you know, the roulette game, where if you're unlucky enough, you'll get that dose that causes a guy or something about your body chemistry that can't break it down. I think Clint talked about this one time. He took one drug and it almost killed him. He couldn't control his nervous system. Something happened. Something very, very, really horrific happened. And so, luckily, we still have him today. But this is another example of pharmaceutical companies. They cannot spike all of these. They can't spike completely all of the doses. Thus, I'm sure you've heard on here with Patrick Jordan, where he calls them lot and serial number vaccines. Lot and serial number vaccinations, where this lot and serial number will go to the East Coast. This lot and serial number will go to the West Coast. This one will go here, because you can't have it across the board, because then it would be too suspicious. So some people have these symptoms, some people have those symptoms, other people have, years later, they get lupus, or they get this, or they get that. And this is what they do. I mean, this is it. You can't have all this disease. You can't have all these cancers and everything exploding out of nowhere You can't have the war on cancer declared by Nixon, and then right after that, one has said if they declare war on it, it means that there's going to be money made off of it. It's going to be marketed. It's going to be marketed. So thus we have, and I always read from, I'll read from certain news platforms, but then I also, I heard the story this week about the paint thinner, the methylene chloride, that when breathed in, you die, or it causes incredible, like, heart attacks later, things like that. And then they really kind of circle back, found out that he had been exposed to this, and just a little bit of research finds out. So we look at let's see here, news about health. And so, what the important things in life, they start off with what to eat before workout and foods to avoid. Yeah. Don't eat any fried food. Like, duh. Like, who's going to eat a serving or two of French fries and then go work out? I'm sure it's happened, but if you're serious about your health, you don't eat fried food at all. Anytime you heat up carbohydrate, anytime you heat up and or burn a fat, a protein, or a carbohydrate, a starch, or a sugar, it becomes, toxic to the body. Becomes toxic. Makes sense. I mean, it totally makes sense. So we got 3 habits linked to weight loss. Coffee cancer warning, what science says about the actual risk, with a connection to California coffee and the process used there. Trust me, it's pretty much all coffee. I have a chiropractor / kinesiologist who can test for any kind of nasty, filthy product that you shouldn't put into your body, and it's all about muscle testing. Anything bad for you, anything with toxins in it, weaken your body. Even before you put it into it, all you have to do is touch it. Most people can't really gather or grasp that level of, of this. Can't really grasp it. So, let's see what we got here. Let me pause this for a second here. At the top of the hour, I'm going to play some of the international news and let you know what's going on from the other side. So we've got what else here? Man's beer belly turned out to be 30-pound tumor. All right. Thrill of victory may pose big health risk for hockey fans. I mean, just Americans binge 17 billion drinks a year, CDC says, another corrupt, disgusting organization that's not really there to keep the company to keep the public healthy. There are compartmentalized areas, just like the intelligence agencies, that are there doing that are creating work for the other compartmentalized areas that have no idea that this other compartmentalized area of it is doing. So it's just like it's getting, they create their own work and their own issues there. So synthetic weed blamed for very severe bleeding. What we are seeing is people are coming in with various types of bleeding, nosebleeds, bleeding from their gums, bleeding in their urine. Health officials say. CDC director pledges to bring opioid epidemic to its knees. Yeah, just like Trump. Let's go after the drug pushers, or the guys that are selling them on the street, and not big pharma. Because if Trump fucks with big pharma, he's going to be big dead guy underneath the ground if he fucks with big pharma, because they got enough money to fucking erase him completely. So never ever going to go after the pharmaceutical companies that do these things and create mass death as the soft kill weapon that we know that they all are. And so, let's see here. New director of the top public health agency also said he believes the AIDS epidemic could be ended in 3 to 7 years in the U.S. Starbucks and others must carry cancer warning in California. Coffee companies had argued that a chemical created from roasting coffee was only present in insignificant amounts. The country where Down syndrome is disappearing. Iceland has almost eliminated Down syndrome by aborting virtually 100% of fetuses that test positive. Wow. Wow. Now, is that a true story? It's coming from CBS. We don't know. But I mean, imagine that. The country where Down syndrome is disappearing, and they did it by virtually aborting 100% of fetuses that test positive for the gene that creates the Down syndrome. So you can find that over at Fake News CBS. Using an ultrasound, a blood test, and mother's age, the test called combination test determines whether the fetus will have a chromosome abnormality. Well, maybe the ultrasound causes that abnormality. We know that it is very, very bad for babies, fetuses in the womb, ultrasound. But then again, isn't all of their tests to do mostly anything in hospitals very dangerous and toxic to the body? Of course. Let's see here. The most common of which results in Down syndrome, the chromosome. Children born with this genetic disorder have distinctive facial issues and a range of developmental issues. Many people born with Down syndrome can live full, healthy lives with an average lifespan of around 60 years. Let's see if we can't lower that for everybody. But, I mean, they can just rig the test and say, yeah, looks like your kid's going to be Down syndrome. Let's, what do you want to do? And if most people have a choice, what are they going to choose? Poisoned by bitter squash, 2 women lose their hair. In 2 separate incidents, women who ate squash developed cucurbit poisoning or toxic squash syndrome. Could cancer vaccine that cured tumors in mice work for people? who did that, who created that, and is this even true that happened? And then there's a mouse and a needle. This is so wonderful, Mr. Mouse, Mr. Mouse. We're going to interview Mr. Mouse any day now, find out how he's doing post-cancer, see what kind of cheese he's eating. Cheese made from raw milk or homogenized, pasteurized. Mr. Mouse. More at 11. But a potential genetic link in some sudden infant deaths. The SIDS. Maybe you stop spraying the crib with Lysol. Maybe you stop doing that. Maybe you stop loading down on the benzene. It's always some kind of genetic link, and that's the thing. People are like, don't you believe in hereditary diseases? Don't you believe in genetics, that predisposition? No, but you do. And everybody else does. So that's why bad genes is why everybody in your family had cancer. No, maybe it's because the toxic fucking poison that you were drinking in your town, or the fact that you never missed a vaccine because you believed in the system so much and you feared all of these commercials about meningitis and measles and mumps and all these other what is it, shingles. If you ever had chicken pox, you got the shingles virus. Let's take some of those shingles and put them on my roof. Can we do it? You know how roofs are, they're so expensive these days. I need some shingles. Oh, shingles. Rubber ducks may be a haven for nasty germs. I posed a question the other day. How far have we fallen that rubber ducky, that, was it Kermit? Rubber ducky, you're the one. You make bathing so much fun. Wasn't it? Sounded like Kermit's voice. You know, the same guy who did them all. But now they are a haven for nasty germs that could kill your kids. More at 11. Pathogenic bacteria caused by, maybe it's the ducks are coming from China, right? And they're more right. I think the breakdown from our local scientist, and she said the other day, they take on water and they're not properly cleaned, and then that water turns into a puddle of pathogenic bacteria that could kill your kids. Couple sues fraternity clinic or fertility clinic after losing their only chances for a second child. University hospitals admitted the number of eggs and embryos lost when the freezer system failed is double original. Failed is double original of the estimates. So again, okay, they don't want people having children. They don't. So these accidents are going to happen all the time now. What happens? We're going to check you to see if you got an abnormal chromosome. Bam, you got it. Kill the kid. Better luck next time. Why is my chromosome all fucked up? Environmental toxins, stress, the good old excuse for everything. Oh, it's the stress in your life that's caused your foot to just fall off in the middle of the night. It's been known to happen. It's going to happen again. There's a war on now. There's a war on the disease stress. There's a war on stress, and there's a war on people losing limbs in the middle of the night to stress. You can wake up, your arm is like disconnected from your body. That's stress. Okay, so there's a war on that now. So then we're just going to have to move forward with one arm or one leg or a nub or something like that. So deal with it, move on, chill out. Nearly 1,000 patients have now learned that 4,000 eggs and embryos were destroyed on March 3rd. The FDA sued over delay of e-cigarette review. Anti-smoking groups filed the lawsuit arguing the delay poses a threat to children's health. But they're the future. God damn it, they're the future. Prince died from sky-high levels of fentanyl, reports say. The Associated Press, or Rothschild News, obtained confidential toxicology reports documenting that what was in his system at the time, including super potent synthetic opioids and increased levels of purple rain. How some rural hospitals were used to score huge paydays. I can tell you what was actually funneled through the facility, and that was over $120 million in 14 months, an attorney says. Global use of antibiotics soars as resistance crisis worsens. Bone treats blamed for dog deaths and illnesses. What is it about these bone treats? And there's the FDA again saying that it has received dozens of reports of pets' illnesses and even deaths related to commercially produced bone treats from China. Study kids with autism, siblings at risk from skipping shots. They're at risk of being healthy. Okay? Because more and more people know now. Okay, see, lies only have a specific lifespan. Not saying that you're going to get the truth, but the lies have to be, and of course that's why this empire is falling and will be demolished, dematerialized soon, because if people knew, they suspect, but the fear is so great that they just continue. They suspect that something is wrong. Something's very wrong. And by the time they realize it, it'll be too late. That's why so much chaos and the global system, the minions of death and destruction, the authors of all of the world's woes are creating, and even in Russia, they are creating the World War III conflict that will be written about years later and lied about for the next generation to be deceived. If we let them. I don't see anybody really stopping them. The United States corporation is filled with nothing but cowards in denial. So we just move forward and walk off the ledge. These are the healthiest communities in the U.S. Oh, what are they? Where people get the most vaccinations? Really? U.S. and News World Report says Falls Church, Virginia, topped the list of healthiest communities across the country, followed by Douglas County, Colorado, Broomfield County, Colorado. Seven of the top 10 counties were located in those two states. Well, I mean, in Colorado, everybody's fucking high, right? They're all high. They're all high. And if they're not smoking it, then they're getting the contact. They're getting the contact high. The report published on Monday was done in collaboration with the Aetna Foundation, another marketing parasite claiming to provide you with options when you get sick. To come up with the rankings, researchers scored nearly 3,000 communities across 80 metrics evaluating community health. These were broken down into several categories, including population health, which looked at access to care, health behaviors, and outcomes, and, of course, mental health and all the stigmas that go along with that. Education, housing, economy, infrastructure, food availability and nutrition, the environment, and public safety. Another bullshit report. But here we go. Wow, look at all that. Below are the top 20 healthiest communities in the U.S. according to the new ranking. It's like power rankings in the NHL. Falls Church, Virginia. Douglas County, Colorado. Broomfield County, Colorado. Los Alamos, New Mexico. Dukes County, Massachusetts. Fairfax City, Virginia. A county in Indiana. 2 more Colorado counties. Another county in Virginia. One county in Wisconsin. 1 county in Ohio. 1 in Minnesota. 1 in Wyoming. Another 1 in Minnesota. Why don't we just put them right next to each other? Oh, okay. So one's a little bit less healthy than the other one. Oh, okay, I get it. New Hampshire, Rockingham County, Colorado, another one, Massachusetts, Wyoming, and Maryland. For a complete list of more bullshit, go to this website. Outcry after 144 psychiatric patients died during transfer to other facilities. I guess they didn't have enough beds. Patients were transferred from a private healthcare provider to other facilities, and some were not properly licensed. Oh dear. Oh my. South Africa shocked. Oh, it was in South Africa. Oh. Johannesburg. Right, the place where the white genocide is going to take place. Let's see. During a regular visit, Sophie Magina was shocked to find that her mother with dementia had been transferred from the psychiatric facility without so much as a phone call to the family. And the nurse on duty didn't know exactly where she was. Desperate for information, the daughter heard from a security guard that her mother may have been taken to Takalani, a little-known facility in Johannesburg's township, one of Johannesburg's townships. And the family found the mother. Say that 10 times. The 56-year-old matriarch had lost so much weight, she was barely recognizable. Shivering, hungry, she was in dirty clothes and barefoot. Days later, she passed. Magina was one of at least 144 psychiatric patients who died after South Africa's Gauteng provincial government hastily transferred 1,700 state-funded psychiatric patients in 2015 and 2016 from the original location, private health care provider, to other facilities, dozens of which were not properly licensed. So this is what they do with the mentally ill in South Africa. Dentists say they support limits on opioid prescriptions. Let's see if we can listen to this jackass here. Does he have a video here? Probably not. Oh, Dr. John LaPook is a chief medical correspondent at CBS News and a professor of medicine at NYU Langone Medical Center. They have a number, like at least 3 of these fucking jackasses. One of is LaPook, and then 2 of these other Barbie babes that get on there and be like, get your vaccines. If they ask you if you want them in your eyeball, say yes, because that's the best way, the most effective way to battle diseases that we haven't even created. Found out about yet. See. Why are vaccinated young adults coming down with mumps? Why? It's because the vaccines gave them the mumps. That's why. Study finds we could be closer to a male birth control pill. The birth control pill is nearly 60 years old and has caused many, many cancers, but there's never been one for the filthy, stinking male. And one doctor says it's about time. Yeah, it's about time that we gave all these cancers to the guys. Now, we poison them as well. And if they're both taking birth control, then we'll never have another kid ever, and our population will dwindle exactly where they want it to go. God bless the American corporation. God bless us. Every one of us. Especially the ones that will never be born. God bless us. And I mean that. Young adults and impaired driving. Thanks, LaPook. A new study shows 1 in 3 recent high school graduates admits being a passenger in a car in the last year with a driver who had been drinking or taking drugs. Hey, before you get into my car, I just want to tell you, I've been drinking and taking drugs. Woo-hoo, let's go. Let's go. I like to taking drugs, baby, and drinking. I like drinking drugs and taking drinks. The opioid epidemic is getting worse, by the way. I don't know if anybody's tracking this crisis, but it's getting worse. More needs to be done to improve flu vaccines, researchers say. We've been using this technology of inactivated virus that you grow in chicken eggs, chimeras, and junk since the 1940s, the head of the vaccine death squad committee. Now we need to do things that, and I'll read this at some point, but we got the Russian report coming up, you know. We got the Russian report coming up here. Now, see? It's coming up now, see?
Unless you buy their products.
You are not cool enough unless you buy their products.
These are the hawks.
Listen when they talk. Watching the hawks. Watch the hawks. Here we go. Oh man, Athens, Greece. Protest against educational cuts. These people are fucking fed up, man. The blood is gonna spill. Kill the bankers. And there goes the police. We are the police. We will protect the bankers from the people. We will protect them as they steal everything from you. Here we go.
The governor of Russia's Kemerovo region resigns over last Sunday's shopping centre fire, which killed 64 people, including 41 children. As the diplomatic spat over the Skripal case intensifies, the US and Russia each close one of their consulates, while Moscow expels American diplomats in a reciprocal move. And get back online. Celebrities and activists demand the Ecuadorian embassy restores internet access for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, who's been cut off for nearly a week. Hello, welcome. The latest developments and a look back at what's been happening over the last 7 days too. You're watching The Weekly here on RT International. Now, the governor of Russia's Kemerovo region has resigned over last Sunday's deadly fire at a shopping centre. It comes after investigators found a series of violations in safety procedures.
This story is relevant over there, but it's not relevant to international news. So I'm going to wait until that segment comes on. Until that segment, where we're going to talk about all of the diplomatic expulsions from Russia. And unfortunately, there was this huge fire over there where many children died, and pretty tragic. 64 victims, mostly children, killed in mall blaze. 5 people arrested over Kemerovo mall tragedy. So, of course, they're not without their tragic accidents over there. So, all right. So let's see here. What else we got? It shouldn't be much longer on this account. Impact of guns on public health. Peanut protein powder, a solution for those suffering from allergies. Historically severe flu season may not have reached its peak. Oh, dear. Everybody get out there and get your vaccines. New fast-acting drug offers a novel way to combat the flu virus. In Japan, one company says it's developed a treatment that kills the flu in one day, and then you on day 2. Bada-boo. This flu season could be the worst in a decade. More bullshit from the bullshitters. The bullshitters. So, I mean, all you have to really do is kind of look at these headlines and realize that they're lying to you about any number of things. But it's just the level. What is the level of the deception, and how and what are they trying to do? They're trying to implant into the minds of the people that there's all these new procedures, there's all these new this, all these new that. We know that they know that people have found out that the flu shot is mostly ineffective. But then you'll get those people that say, I never had the flu, and then I got a shot, and then I got the flu. Or those that the only year that what was it? Or the other way around. You switch it around where they're like, I missed the flu shot, and then I got the flu. Or some kind of shit that keeps people moving in a direction of uncertainty, which leads to the stories of how can we make this more effective? How can we do that? How can we? Oh, what's that? Oh, it kills the flu in one day. And over in Japan, really? Seriously? I got to get that, man. I want that, man. I want to get that. Yeah. I want to kill the flu in one day. Do we have to go to Japan for that? How do we get that? I want that. And my doctor told me that, it's pretty soon. Yeah, they're going to get that, and next thing you know, everybody's going to be like, "Hey, I killed the flu in one day." Well, if you listen to John Rappaport, you'll find out that most of these weren't even flus. Most of these weren't even the flu virus, much like the H1N1 situation a number of years ago. It was not the influenza virus. So they just stopped counting because they knew ultimately that, or the directives were to do whatever, blah, blah, blah. And just a bunch of garbage and a bunch of shit. Bunch of garb shit. Learn how to filter. Learn how to filter. And, of course, over at Blacklisted News, our friend Doug Owen over there at Blacklisted News. I haven't seen a lot of his emails. Like, do you still get emails from his? I don't know what the heck happened to my feed. I don't know what happened to my Blacklisted News feed. He probably blacklisted me. Son of a. 17-year-old student carried 3 children out of the blaze. I am a hero. I am a hero. I am a young hero carrying 3 students out on my back. Klitschkov. Dmitry Polukin. I saved 3 children on my back. Russian power. But of course, you're pointing out all the heroes, and that's awesome, man. You can go in there and you can save the lives of people, and just a fucking mall just went on, just a blaze and shit. Movie theater, I think, right? I don't know. But apparently they had to lock the doors so that people would be getting in there without paying, I'm sure they have their hood rats there too, right? Drinking their vodka. But, it's all relative. We're going to get some updates here. This should be near the end of it.
By crowds of locals and victims' relatives. The demonstrators were demanding the truth from officials, with rumours circulating that the death toll could actually be as high as 300. Those claims, though, were rejected by the investigation committee and later by protesters too.
My taxes are paying, and you barricaded the doors. We demand the truth, And then you can say how much of this is provocateur.
Молодочек, вы что, хотите все попьяниться на гору?
The whole world's melting down. The whole world's melting down. This story will be going to move into the Assange having his internet cut off and of course the as I said, the diplomats being ushered out of U.S. Diplomats being ushered out of Russia in reaction to their diplomats being shown The door. The bloody door. They're being shown the door. Shown the door. Boy, they are pissed.
Course the fire is progressing. The two main versions are malfunction of the fire safety system and also arson. 5 people have been arrested in connection with the tragedy. Among them, 2 directors of the shopping centre and also the manager of that fire safety system. The blaze is one of the deadliest in Russia in decades. It took firefighters around 24 hours to put it out. The victims were mostly children celebrating the start of school day. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been cut off from the internet since the start of the week. Ecuador, which is giving refuge to the whistleblower and its London embassy, accuses him of harming its relations with other countries. Assange's friends and supporters united on Twitter, though, under the hashtag #ReconnectJulian. And Sir Chalkner reports from outside the embassy.
According to sources close to WikiLeaks, we have learned that the Ecuadorian government had placed electronic jammers inside the Ecuadorian embassy right behind me, where Julian Assange has been holed up for over 5.5 years now. And the idea of this was to block him from being able to tweet, as well as communicate with the outside world, hold telephone conversations, or have access to the internet, generally speaking. And apparently all of this comes following a publication in the Ecuadorian press about Julian Assange's tweets concerning the Catalan issue, specifically the detention of Catalan independence leader Carles Puigdemont in Germany earlier this week. According to this source close to WikiLeaks, is that Julian Assange and his team have been informed of having to delete a certain tweet that he had posted, among others.
In 1940, the elected president of Catalonia, Luis Companys, was captured by the Gestapo at the request of Spain, delivered to them and executed. Today, German police have arrested the elected president of Catalonia, Carles Puigdemont, at the request of Spain, to be extradited.
Julian Assange did not delete this tweet. According to these sources that are close to Julian Assange, the Ecuadorian government has informed him and his team about their discomfort with his expressing his opinions. And curiously, all of this comes following a statement from a top official here in the UK describing Julian Assange as, quote, a miserable little worm.
Speakers, of great regret that Julian Assange remains in the Ecuador embassy. It is of even deeper regret that even last night he was tweeting against Her Majesty's government for their conduct in replying to the attack in Salisbury. It's about time that this miserable little worm walked out of the embassy and gave himself up to British justice.
Earlier we know that claims were made by the Ecuadorian government who said that Julian Assange had signed some kind of agreement saying that he wouldn't tweet or say anything about politics of Ecuador as well as other countries. But again, according to the source close to WikiLeaks, those claims have been false.
Well, it is the second time, in fact, Assange's internet has been cut. Back in 2016, he lost access after WikiLeaks publications on then US presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. British fashion designer Vivienne Westwood is a friend of Assange, and she told us why it is important that he gets back online.
We're very concerned about the fact that he can't have visitors at the moment, and it's really important that he's got access to the world by all the exposures that he manages to do. He's a war hero. He exposed American war crimes. They want him in concrete, and he's just my friend, and he's brilliant. And I'm a fashion designer called Vivienne Westwood, and I see him quite regularly. And I support him whenever I can.
And she joined a group of prominent intellectuals too and artists signing an open letter that calls on the Ecuadorian government to end Assange's isolation. The signatories include filmmaker Oliver Stone and also the former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis. A petition with a similar goal has been supported by over 30,000 people. Well, Assange took refuge inside the embassy in 2012 after being accused of rape in Sweden, a case later put on hold in Stockholm. The whistleblower fears leaving the embassy and being extradited to the US, where he faces charges of espionage. Australian journalist John Pilger says, though, there is a lot more at stake.
This is about a war on freedom of speech. This man is being denied the most basic right, freedom of speech. It's part of a wider war. The wider war is against known enemies, and Russia is one of them, China is another. But at the moment, it's at a propaganda stage. This is about the public's right to know, and it's the public's right to know what their governments are doing. The second part of this war is about a real war. You forget the whole idea of trade war. We've got the prospect of a real war unless this propaganda war is seen through. The attack on him and WikiLeaks over the years is so important because it does what journalism should be doing, and that is holding great power to account.
Still to come on the weekly, relations between Russia and the West have deteriorated sharply over the Skripal poisoning case, with dozens of diplomats expelled. We'll have the latest on that just after the break.
Like when you have no clean water, no health care, no infrastructure, those are all symptoms of a greater problem in Haiti. And that greater problem is imperialism. That greater problem is debt, dependency, and domination that Haiti has had to deal with since it became the first free republic ruled by black people since 1804.
I've played for many clubs over the years, so I know the game inside out. Football isn't only about what happens on the pitch or the final score. It's about the passion from the fans. It's the age of the super manager, billionaire owners, and spending 220 million on one player. But it's an experience like nothing else on earth, because I want to share what I think, what I know about the game. I agreed to one more transfer. This is my new team.
Welcome back. Now, the fallout over the Skripal case has seen mass expulsions of diplomatic staff over the last week, with both Russian and American diplomats having to pack their bags and leave for home. Staff at Russia's Seattle consulate had to vacate the premises, while American diplomats were ordered to leave the US mission in St. Petersburg. It comes after Moscow announced on Thursday that it would retaliate to Washington's move in kind, expelling 60 US envoys and shutting down the diplomatic compound. In Washington, Russia's ambassador to the US, Anatoly Antonov, saw off his expelled colleagues as they got on a plane bound for Russia. Then on Sunday, the plane carrying those diplomats arrived in Moscow. All 60 ordered to leave America have now come back home. US diplomats are also expected to leave Russia soon, following Moscow's mirror response. Here's how Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov outlined the steps taken so far.
Retaliatory measures include the expulsion of the same number of US diplomats and withdrawal of our consent for the US consulate in St. Petersburg. As far as other states are concerned, we will always give a mirror response.
For every Russian diplomat kicked out from the 24 or so countries, one of their diplomats will be kicked out of Russia. Almost all of those countries, by the way, either NATO members or hopefuls. The United States, though, may have to charter a jet. 60 of its diplomats have been ordered to leave Russia, the same number kicked out by Washington. Owen, the U.S. consulate in St. Petersburg is being closed down in response to the closure of Russia's consulate in Seattle.
OK, we apologise for some technical problems we're having. Now, not everybody seems to be sold on Russia bashing at the moment. For example, 9 EU states chose not to take punitive action. Austria is among them, and it says London put pressure on Vienna to comply. Well, a presentation that sums up the basis for why the US and half the EU backed Britain's expulsion of Russian diplomats was leaked earlier this week, with all 6 slides focusing on accusations against Moscow. It does begin with the description of the nerve agent allegedly used in the Salisbury assassination attempt, with the blame being placed squarely on Russia. The so-called evidence includes allegations of previous malign activity by Moscow, among them cyber attacks, alleged interference in elections, and what the presentation also calls the occupation of Crimea. The British Embassy in Russia was quick to respond, though, to that leak by thanking Moscow for raising awareness of the case, adding that the full version is actually now available online. The Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson expressed her surprise, though, at that response.
After we drew the attention to the publication of these presentation materials in the media, the British Foreign Office thanked us on their Twitter account. Imagine that. They've ignored 4 diplomatic notes we sent them. They haven't informed us on the state of the Russian nationals are in. They have given us no information. They say that they feel there is no reason to talk to Russia, but they thanked us on Twitter.
This is a coordinated political warfare against Russia. It's global in scale, and it really has nothing to do with Salisbury. This is a political pretext, just like the kind of accusations we've seen against Syria on chemical weapons, to ratchet up the pressure on Moscow, to discredit the recent Russian election, and also, I think, summer. Look, I don't think we can
Well, that's unusual. The live feed is blocked now, probably because of what they're talking about. It'll probably come back after this segment or this information is over.
The 16-year-old Muslim girl ran...
And there you have it. And there you have it. All right, so let's see what we got here.
Soon as they start to rabble, they are nothing but fishes in the barrel. It doesn't have to be Christmas for a carol. Some decorate with ornamental decorum. Some perform Shakanar on Hanukkah and Purim. That's where my job come in. I am a blessing to the mercenary. For the corporation selling weapons to them. Any potential competitor step into them. I'm authorized to knock them out and stick a GPS into them. They want to sell uranium to Iran that's enriched. That's a bitch. Now we gotta teach them.